Hello, my name is Lucine Chaparian. I will be discussing the effects of atrazine, a commonly used herbicide in America. My video will be showing the minimum of what our environment is exposed to on a daily basis. The facts used in the presentation will be from scientific sources, reports done by the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, scientists, and organizations who have conducted research on atrazine. Atrazine is a synthetic chemical created by Syngenta. It was approved and registered for use in 1958 by the USDA. It is one of the chemicals found in a group of triazines. Atrazine is banned in Europe and a few other countries, but not the United States. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Public Health Service Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, states that the half-life of atrazine can last in surface water for over 200 days, and in the atmosphere via vaporization anywhere from 14 to 109 days. That's a very long time. Our economy has grown accustomed in the process of fast and effective production. Unfortunately, the use of man-made, hence synthetic chemicals, is highly incorporated in our production of goods. Therefore, atrazine has become an important factor in America. What are systemic herbicides and pesticides? According to the National Pesticide Information Center, atrazine is a systemic herbicide. A systemic herbicide is one that is absorbed by plant roots and carried to other parts of the plant, like we can see in this picture. The herbicide is used on target plants like weeds mainly. Upon consumption, the consumer of the plant can also be exposed to the herbicide due to its very active components. Herbicides like atrazine take part in the environmental matrix in a few different ways. We can see a detailed description in the following picture. There are 3 ways that atrazine can become a part of the matrix. It can be vaporized and stay in the atmosphere for long periods of time, which it then precipitates back down to the earth and ends up in our water systems and different parts of land. This happens through surface runoff as well. Atrazine can also travel about 25 to 250 feet via drift from wind. This is another way that atrazine can get into our water systems, and knowing from previous slides, it can last for a long time in surface water and then end up in our tap water. Here are some known crops that atrazine is used on. Corn, according to the EPA, is contaminated the most by atrazine. 90% of atrazine is used on it, and 65% are sorghum. Sorghum and corn are both very common ingredients in our food, and we can find a lot of it in cereals. Even though many articles show that the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, has limited the use of atrazine to people who are trained to use it, I decided to do my own research. After searching atrazine on Google Shop, I found many websites that were selling it, like garden stores, Target, and Walmart. According to the College of Agricultural Life Sciences, the maximum allowable limit placed by the EPA for corn is 2.5 pounds active ingredient per acre per year. So let's take a minute to imagine how much atrazine is being used on American agricultural fields each year and how much of that escapes into our environment. The legal limit of atrazine in the water per year is 3 parts per billion and 1 part per billion in California. But we can see in further study that there is a lot more escaping into our water system and our environment. In the early 2000s, Tyrone Hayes, a former researcher for Syngenta, found that there were severe mutations in frogs exposed to atrazine, which we can see in this TED Talk. He claims that he was using levels that were a lot less than what species in the environment were exposed to, yet he found genital mutations in males due to increase of estrogen, which can also cause cancer. In the same TED Talk, Toxic Baby, a woman by the name of Penelope Jagisor Schaefer talks about her first pregnancy resulting in a miscarriage. She states that many women lose their unborn children due to environmental toxins like atrazine. This is why I included a slide of an image of a sculpture created by artist Martin Hudacek from Slovakia, who created a sculpture of a mother who lost her unborn child. I chose to include the image in my presentation because it shows the pain that a mother goes through when losing her child. It is important to understand that the contamination of our environment can lead to circumstances that we may not be able to control at one point, and some of those can be very detrimental. According to The New Yorker and an interview with Tyrone Hayes on Democracy Now!, Hayes claims that Syngenta fired him when he exposed the issue with frogs, the same company that had given him a contract to research atrazine and its effects. Hayes claims that Syngenta threatened him and his family if he did not take back his claims. Another article written by Forbes states that Syngenta did not make those accusations and backs the corporation instead of Hayes, stating that Hayes did not provide accurate information or show Syngenta research documents of his methods. They only know what he claims. The issue stirred a lot of controversy, which led to a lawsuit. After the lawsuit, the EPA put regulations to constantly monitor atrazine. In the refined ecological risk assessment for atrazine report, the EPA states that there have been many researcher teams working on this case for the past 20 years, and that research has shown that atrazine can affect many different species in the environment, but they continue to regulate it. When doing research, they tested on various species. In rats, they found that certain levels of exposure could cause neuroendocrine disorders, endocrine disruptions like Hayes discussed in frogs, which can lead to tumors, reproductive problems, loss of pregnancy, and prepubescent related issues leading to underdevelopment. According to the 2018 EPA report, Draft Human Health Risk Assessment for Registration Review, these issues are found in both males and females, but it does not mean that the same thing can happen in humans, as they claim. In the same report, research was done on humans as well, on a group of 10 volunteers. Scientists used topical cream with low and high levels of atrazine. They found that there was a very low level of absorption, about 5.6%, which was excreted and urinated from the body within 2-3 days. The report did not state any side effects. The agency does not think, based on their research, that atrazine has the same effect on humans as it does on other species. Agricultural workers in Texas were exposed to atrazine while working in the fields. The report does not talk about any endocrine-related issues, but it does state that there were respiratory, sight, and skin irritation. They were taken to a hospital and immediately treated. This was due to higher levels of exposure due to being sprayed with atrazine, which they claimed to not know was being sprayed. Before I continue, I would like to give a brief overview of what the endocrine system is. The endocrine system is one of the 12 systems in the body. It helps regulate many different bodily functions like development and growth, immune system response, homeostasis with the environment, metabolism, reproduction, sleep, and electrolyte and fluid balance in the body. There are many organs that make part of the endocrine system. The essential organs are the pituitary gland, pineal gland, adrenal, pancreas, hypothalamus, ovaries, and testes. These glands secrete chemical signals, messenger molecules, that attach to hormone receptors that are proteins in specific cells called target cells. These cells then respond to the given hormone, which regulates the cell function. When there is an imbalance of hormones, it could mean that there is an endocrine disruptor, causing a disruption. Now I'd like to look at a few more species that were affected by atrazine. Researchers found that the most sensitive of aquatic animals were the marine shrimp, which the EPA stated as moderately toxic for aquatic animals. They also noticed that saltwater animals were more susceptible to atrazine exposure than freshwater animals. In mallard ducks and bobwhite quail, they found endocrine disruption relating to a lower offspring rate, many cracked eggs, low hatchling weight, and those birds that were exposed to higher amounts of atrazine died within a few days. They were given levels of atrazine as high as 5,000 milligrams per kilogram orally, so it was placed in their food and part of their diet. The agency's result also shows that monocots and dicots cannot survive with atrazine. They were given a very small dose, like cyanobacteria, in cyanobacteria, and green algae, both oxygen-producing species, which are vital for our planet. Cyanobacteria, also known as blue-green algae, was exposed to 1 microgram active ingredient per liter. 93% reduction was noticed after small amounts of atrazine were given. Cyanobacteria are one of the very first oxygen producers in our planet and are very important for our atmosphere and environment, as well as algae. Green algae, they found a higher rate of fatality. Just like many other species of plants and animals, there is aquatic life near agricultural land that can be affected by atrazine via environmental matrix. A lot of that aquatic life is responsible for producing oxygen. It is our responsibility to protect and conserve it. I'd like to show a few of the claims that Syngenta has made. Syngenta claims that they are a company that practices stewardship, meaning they use ethical practices when involving the environment. There has been multiple tests done with the EPA after Hayes' research showing that there is not much evidence to show that amphibians are affected, so they say. According to their website, the EPA states that there is no need for further testing on atrazine to show if it has adverse effects on the environment based off the research results that were provided. Syngenta also states that atrazine reduces surface runoff. No tilling needed with atrazine. Tilling is when they furrow in the ground so that they can get rid of weeds, and they state that with atrazine there won't be a need because it basically destroys the weeds. Studies show that atrazine is contaminating tap water. In the Poisoning the Well report, written in August 2009, and in the article, Atrazine, a Harmful Weed Killer, Taints Tap Water for Millions in U.S., both claim that the EPA is ignoring high levels of water toxicity due to atrazine. They claim in the articles that this contamination is linked to endocrine disruption in humans, regardless of age. Let's look at the beauty around us and appreciate what we have. Our planet needs to be protected and preserved using stewardship, sustainability, and ethical choices. Now that you know a little bit about atrazine, would you still consider this herbicide a plausible solution to increasing agricultural production and a way to meet with our economy's standards? As a solution, I have chosen to sell paintings that I have drawn in the past of the environment and imagination of the environment. The solution is posted on this slide. If everyone can take a minute to just look at it so that we can continue looking at the paintings which will be auctioned off. And as the slide says, these last two photos will have their big reveal during the auction. Once I have enough people signing up for the auction, I will set a date and we can all take part. Thank you for watching.